Hi again. I'm not really sure where I'm going to go with this conversation this morning, but I'm reflecting on a couple of experiences that I had yesterday, and in the process of sort of processing them and trying to integrate and learn and understand, some thoughts are coming to me. So at one moment yesterday, I was at a group event, and I was in the listening range of actually pretty close to two people I didn't know, hadn't met yet, a woman and a man. And I had briefly connected with the woman and a bit of her story, and she was sharing, and I liked her energy. She seemed to be very kind of clear about something she'd been through that had been difficult, and how she had found her voice. And even though it was hard, she had actually created a group, and then someone in the group sort of eased her out of her own group, and she was attempting to be real and honest and truthful in the group. And as I remember it, someone sort of turned her into a scapegoat and made her wrong, and the entire group that was her group that she created went along with this other person, and they just basically dropped her out of the group, created a new one, and left her out of it. And the way she was sharing was not from a victim place. It was from a place of kind of righteous indignation, like, they did that, and I understand what it was now. And, I get it, and it wasn't right, but it happened, and this is what I learned, and now I know that can happen in the world. I'm a little less sort of naive and innocent when this kind of sort of social maneuvering and othering is going on. So I had a sense of her as someone who was fairly self-aware and experienced, and striving to see clearly and be responsible for her own perception and her own experiences. So my attention drifted, and I was talking with somebody else, and then I just sort of drifted back in and heard the man that was sitting next to her talking about her and what was going on for her psychologically and psychically. And I could hear and feel her listening, and it was a very mental kind of analysis, like, oh, this, is happening, and this edge of your energetic body is starting to expand, and these colors are coming in. It was very quite specific, and it was very much like, almost like a reading. And I don't even know if it was that so much that's what I responded to the most, I think, was, wait, you're telling this person what her inner experience is? Like you have like a map of her mind. And I'm a healer. I understand impressions. I understand guesses. I understand, sort of emotional colors and story and so forth that goes on in other people. I can almost feel what someone else is energetically feeling. And I don't have a visual way to describe that. So there's a possibility that this this man had these extreme powers, or, you know, this special ability. But my body, which is who I listen to, just flared up. And it was like, and because I was experiencing her as someone who was, yes, Father, tell me who I am. Yes, you know, oh, that's interesting. Oh, so that's what's going on. Oh, thank you very much for your wise understanding of me. And I will keep sort of trying to aikido what you're saying in a way that it makes sense to me, and therefore I will revere your wisdom over my own. That's what got me. I thought, and I still don't, you know, it wasn't my experience. I was just sort of eavesdropping, but the feeling I got was, oh, wise master, thank you so much. You know more than I do. You know me more than I know me. You know, I will defer all of my self-knowing in deference to your wise words. And it just felt like she was disempowering herself in order to put this man's wisdom on a pedestal and like consume that and just keep shifting herself to make what he was saying fit. She called it my mother bear. There was a part of me that's like, wait. And I felt my, oh, is this really happening? I almost like there was this sort of, my mind kind of turned it into this sort of sneaky manipulation that she was consenting to be like indoctrinated. And of course, that's anyone's choice. I've done it myself. And it's none of my business if someone chooses to do that. So I'm not proud of what I did, because the more intelligent and wise choice would have been to just back off and go, wow, is this what is happening, and be curious. But I got, you know, like, whoa, is this happening? And I stopped and I just said, excuse me, and looked right into the man's eyes and said, it sounds to me like you are telling this woman what she feels. And I'm very uncomfortable with that. Which at least owned my discomfort. But he kind of went from this sort of advisor sort of energy to kind of this blankness. I'm not sure. It was kind of, woof. It's like his energy, woof, and contracted or retracted and guarded, which doesn't surprise me. It's like a defensive reaction to my naming something that may or may not have been happening. Well, it was happening. Literally, he was telling her what was going on with her. But what I didn't know was that apparently there had been a conversation where she was asking for this and then listening. Like, what do you think's going on with me? And then, okay. Ah, yes, you wise person, you see me in a way that I had no clue. And people do that. You know, we go to seers or mediums or gurus or friends, and ask for them to tell us who we are or how they, you know, understand us. And it's a thing, you know, it's a thing. I've been there. I've done that. What I do know is that that never gave me any real answers. It, you know, somebody does my astrology, or they, you know, anytime someone is actually not just opening it up for me for self-inquiry, but sort of closing it down and telling me, I think that's off. I just do. I think it's off, and it's not genuine, supportive space holding. And if I'm honest with you, you know, I made a judgment about this man, which may or may not be the case. I still am like, I saw what I saw. I felt what I felt. You know, I can't deny that. But if I were to try to unpack what I thought was going on, it's, I don't know if I have words for it, but it feels almost predatory to me. It's a pretty strong word, but it's like, oh, let me set myself up as someone who you will respect and come to. You will respect and you will come to me because I've made myself your source. You don't know that, but that's like, that's the, what is the word? It's like the gall, the, you know, the presumption, the, the word is not coming to me, but to me, it's like, wow, really? There's a seduction in that actually disempowers the person that is asking for help. And maybe that's woven into the request for help. You know, if I am going to go ask you, then maybe what I'm looking for is someone who will tell me. And that's exactly the dynamic I set up, and that's the one I get. And it can be, at some point, maybe I'll discover that doesn't really work. And that's my lesson to learn. So me to sit back and actually go, is this happening? And like say to her, and she says, well, no, I saw him like heal somebody else. I was very impressed with him. And so I came to him and like, oh, master, will you tell me? Quite an ego boost for someone. So I don't really know. I was just an observer. And the main thing I got out of it for myself, regardless of what's really going on or what their dynamic is or who this man is or even this woman who I barely know, was that I could actually, step one for me was to actually feel like the offness. I don't know if the offness was my judgment is the question. And apparently in some ways it was my projection about, whoa, are you really doing this? And yes, maybe he even was, but she was wanting it. So like, not my business. But I did manage to speak. It's like, wow, I need to pause. Like, is this going on? And if it is, it feels really upsetting to me. I was feeling very disturbed by it. And then eventually sitting back and basically realizing oh, you know, it's not such a good idea when you're triggered in that moment to like uh, act. It's better, not always possible, depends how triggered we are, but it's better if I can feel my own inner distress, triggeredness, activation, whatever it is, and just like pay attention to that and slow down and come back to a regulated nervous system and a calm mind and an opened heart, and then perhaps ask a question like, oh, by the way, I saw that you were doing that. You know, I'm wondering what was going on there. And there's this other layer where people say things with words. I'm doing this, or this is what's happening, trying to tell me kind of what's happening, when I have a pretty much a good bullshit detector, like, yeah, that's what you're saying, but what's really happening is this other thing. Like there isn't a congruence. And still I'm learning how to, I really believe that I have kind of superpower in that area to detect that incongruence. And for most of my life, I learned to just shut up the part that was saying, wait, the emperor has no clothes. Why is everybody thinking he's in these gorgeous clothes? So now I recognize it. And I think my next level of mastery is to, you know, maybe not yell it out into the crowd and someone shoots me, but to just kind of, oh, how interesting. I see this incongruity. And so let me just be with that and see what, you know, what comes through me around it, if anything, if I speak or if I don't, or what or when. So that was my pretty challenging experience. I was tempted to go into shame deeply when I realized, wow, I just put my nose in something that I didn't, you know, it was consensual, even if it felt icky and was icky. I don't know, but it was consensual. And yeah, the woman involved later when I said, look, I'm, you know, I just want to say I barely know you and I did that and I own it and I apologize. She said, well, I kind of like that mama bear energy, you know, which again is, it does feel supportive, especially if we're having an experience and the world is telling us, no, we're not. And someone says, I see it. Yeah. You know, what you feel and what you're having is real. I see you. I acknowledge. And I don't know if that's actually protective, but it's validating, I think. And so that's where I want to be. So I'm wondering if there's any part of this little tale that you can relate to. Like, have you been the one that just rushed in to rescue somebody or speak truth to power when maybe what you saw was what you saw, but still there wasn't a receptivity for it? Maybe the shame around acting before being settled and um, really in your power and your knowing. Um, or maybe, you know, looking to an expert or a guru or a wizard, you know, to help you, you know, to tell you, like, I don't get it. Please give me my answers. Or maybe even the wizard, like what I'm calling a fake wizard, which is about like, oh yeah, I can help you. Keep coming back to me. Yeah, I'm necessary. Yeah, love me because I can give you this. Or maybe you're the person who went, wait a minute, the emperor is not wearing any clothes. What's going on here? And you either had someone say, yeah, I see it too. You know, this is just a phony show, smoke and mirrors. Or maybe you noticed that and you were the only one and you didn't know if you could say anything, if it was safe. Maybe you said something, maybe you didn't. But how does that feel to like look around and feel, wow, nobody else in this room sees this, only me? Like, can I trust myself? Is this real? And what you do with that, if that's the case. So I'm really curious to hear from you, and I hope I do.